State of Michigan versus Norline and Tula, case number 23 FB 1239.
Rachel McDuffie for the people.
Assistant Public Defender Sandra White on behalf of Norline and Tula.
Norline and Tula.
Thank you. All right, we're here today. I notes are not clear for myself. It looks like for a violation of probation hearing today. Is that why we're here?
Yes, and he wishes to hold his hearing.
Your Honor, so my apologies. I can ask Agent Casey to pop in. We adjourned last time because I had asked him, because I'm sorry, say his name for me one more time, please, somebody.
Norline Twala.
No, Twala. Okay, thank you, sir. He had failed to ever report to download his Scram Tether. And I had gotten a message from Agent Casey that he said they most likely wouldn't have the information from it. And I needed to clarify if that meant that it was actually gone forever or not. Agent Casey did clarify that it's overwritten every 30 days or so, which is why they have to report weekly. So that just to clarify the status of that, we would not be able to retrieve any information on past violations back to, I think it was October or so that he had that put on. And so if he is contesting the fact, if he's saying that he did in fact report for downloads when the allegation is that he did not report for downloads, we can have a hearing on that. I'm not really sure why, but I can ask Agent Casey to come in right now. My apologies for not having him here already.
That's okay. We're calling it early, actually. It's scheduled for 11.
Okay.
So I just didn't want to have to do this during the middle of our final settlement conference docket. So if he wants to have a hearing, let's do that.
Okay. Ms. White, is he actually contesting that he's claiming that he did go get downloads on that tether?
He's saying that he did as he was instructed as far as the downloads, that he was told by Mr. Casey to come back in the future for the downloads. And he sent an email to Mr. Casey asking when to come back, and he was never told to come back.
All right, we can just have Mr. Casey come in and get the contract that he signed so that we can prove that very quickly. And yeah, I'm not going to be happy. So let's go ahead and do this.
Okay, I'm just sending him a message right now to see if he can come in.
I'll pass it. Well, I guess we don't have anything else that we can call until he comes in. All right, we have an in-person matter we're going to handle. Mr. Casey will be here very shortly. Okay. All right, we're back on the record. The court will call the case of the state of Michigan versus Maryland and Tula, case number 23 FB 1239.
Rachel McDuffie for the people.
Assistant Public Defender Sandra White on behalf of Norline and Tula.
All right, it's my understanding we're having a hearing, correct, Ms. White?
That is correct.
All right, let's proceed. Ms. McDuffie, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. People will call Agent Casey, please.
Mr. Casey, please raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed, Ms. McDuffie.
Thank you, Your Honor. And just for the sake of the record, this hearing is being held regarding the violation for defendant's failure to ever report for a Scram Tether download. This Scram Tether, according to the report that we have from Community Corrections in this case, was placed on October 26th of 2023. The report date is at least as of November 21st. Mr. Nintwala has been in custody for quite some time, I think after the date of that report. So Agent Casey, could you please just briefly describe what your role is at Community Corrections?
Yeah, I am a supervision agent at Community Corrections. I oversee the department.
Okay, and as it relates to electronic monitoring, tethers and things of that sort, can you please explain generally how that process works when a client comes in to get fitted for a Scram Tether?
Yeah, so I believe that this specific client was a prior to release. The original order came across from probation. So what we do generally is we'll take all the paperwork over to the jail. We will have a discussion. They'll fill out paperwork. We'll tell them how the device works, when they're supposed to report, and then they're released at that time.
Okay, and when it comes to actually fitting this tether itself, the physical tether, is that something, pardon me, that's handled by community corrections or any other outside agency, or who physically puts the tether on each defendant?
It's either a staff from community corrections or an employee that we have here that works with JSG Monitoring, which is Judicial Services Group. That's the company we lease all of our equipment through. This specific installation was done by JSG.
Okay, and then I want to refer to what is told to clients in terms of the care, the use of that device, and any sorts of upkeep and expectation. So, Agent Casey, can you please, as a matter of fact, I sent a copy to the court and to counsel. Agent Casey did forward me a copy of the Scram Tether contract in this case. I want to ensure our parties have that before I go any further.
I do.
Okay. So with respect to the contract in this case, or a system agreement as it's titled on this document, Agent Casey, can you just briefly describe what this is and what purpose this document serves?
Yeah, so the Scram agreement is obviously something that each client will look over. We have them initial each area to the left there, if you all have it in front of you. Basically, it's just a tool to help them. You know, it tells them what to refrain from. It tells them exactly what rules and what expectations we require of them while they're on the Scram Tether.
Okay. And I will just note for the record, this document itself doesn't have any specifics in terms of reporting or dates or things like that. However, I do want to ask, are there requirements in this agreement for the clients or defendants to remain in contact with you, generally at community corrections?
Yeah, absolutely. So during installation, we'll verbally tell each client that they need to report on a weekly basis. If that's something that they can't do, that's generally a requirement. If it gets to a specific point where they just have transportation issues, we can kind of work around that and maybe do bi-weekly or even provide them a base station. But yeah, generally everybody needs to report on a weekly basis. During COVID, it was different, but yes, now everyone's reporting weekly.
At the point where a client does not report on a weekly, the first initial weeks that pass with no report from any given client, what happens at that point?
So JSG, the employee that I spoke about earlier, they will send us an email and say, hey, so-and-so hasn't reported. I'm going to try to reach out to them for you. So either the JSG employee will help us out with that, or I myself will try to reach out if it's my client.
Okay. And are you aware of any such contacts going out in this case with concerns or contacts about the fact that he had not reported ever?
Yeah, I sent, I had called him a few times with no success. I even reached out to probation to see if maybe Ms. Johnson had reached out to him or spoke to him lately. I don't really recall the exact conversation that her and I had, but I mean, I never did hear back from him after the installation date, so I'm assuming she wasn't in contact with neither, but.
Okay. And are these telephone or email contacts or both?
I usually just use the telephone. That's the best way to get a hold of them typically. I just use the phone number that was attached to the order.
Okay. And let me also ask, in the other direction, are you aware of any incoming contact from Mr. Ntwala regarding any issues or questions that he had about his tether?
No.
Okay. So, so just to be clear, do you have any record of any emails from him whatsoever? Since
No, in fact, when I was told that he tried to email me, I just went through my email and I don't have an email from him.
Okay. Agent Casey, is it fair to say that if one particular agent, such as yourself, is not there when somebody or does not receive a direct contact, that another agent would receive that contact?
If I'm not here and it's a phone call, yeah, it's sent to a different supervision agent here. That's, you know, it's a tether agent. but if it's an email, it would just come to me. It wouldn't be pushed out to any of my partners.
Okay. Are you aware of any notes in your file, essentially from any other affiliate of Community Corrections recording any contacts with Mr. Ntwala from the time that he was fitted with this tether?
No.
Okay. And Agent Casey, what happens when there's a failure to report for Scram Tether downloads over a period of time?
We abscond.
Abscond as to their status with you.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
If they're on probation, what I'll typically do first is I'll reach out to probation. I know he is on probation with Miss Johnson. So I will reach out to her and I'll say like, hey, just so you're aware, I haven't had contact with this person. Have you? And then if it gets to a point where nobody's had contact with him, I will let her know like, hey, just so you know, I will be absconding this person. And then she, I think, in fact, said that I can send her a final report.
Okay. And now let me also ask, what happens with respect to the data in this Scram Tether when someone fails to report?
After 30 days, it's lost. That's why it's very important for them to report on a weekly basis. As I spoke about earlier, we can get away with like bi-weekly and sometimes even push it out to 3 weeks if somebody's like, going out of state or whatever. But after 30 days, all that information is lost and there's nothing that we can do with it.
Understood. And Agent Casey, to the best of your knowledge, has Community Corrections received that tether back yet?
No, I believe it's still on his ankle at this time, unless the JSG employee went across the street to take it off. I'm unaware of it.
Okay. I don't believe I have any further questions for Agent Casey.
Thank you. Ms. White, your witness.
Yes. Do you recall Mr. Ntula coming to see you after he was released from jail in October?
If he did, it was probably right when he was released from custody and he walked into the building, but I can't remember back to October.
Do they normally sign anything when they come in with the redocumentation that he came in?
Typically, the front desk staff everyone needs to sign in when they come in. As to if he signed in, I'm unaware.
Do you recall he came in for the download and you told him that it was too soon?
I'm unaware of that.
Okay. And you said that you do not recall receiving an email from him?
I do not.
Do you remember any communication with him telling you that he had problem with his phone, so he was going to email you?
No, ma'am, I do not.
You said that you verbally tell them to report on a weekly basis, or is this also in the contract?
It's a verbal confirmation. Just you need to report on a weekly basis.
Now, is that to report or to download from this tether?
It's the same thing to us. So like reporting is reporting for the download because he's a part of intensive supervision, which is the Scram Tether. And just our policy states intensive supervision requires weekly contact. So that's why we have them come in on a weekly basis to report/download if you're on a Scram Tether.
And you don't have any dates showing that he came in to download?
Not at this time, no, ma'am.
So you're saying not at this time. Does that mean you could have had some, but they're now gone? What does that mean?
I'm sorry, let me rephrase. He did not report ever since installation.
Okay. How often do you check your emails?
Every day, ma'am.
Just a second, I'm sorry. I don't think I have any more questions, but I don't know if Mr. Ntua wants to speak with me.
Mr. Ntula, you need to speak with your attorney before we release this witness.
Yes, please.
All right, put you in a breakout room with him.
I do plan to call Agent Johnson quickly next, just so everybody's aware.
Oh, do we want to do, let's do that first, just so I can talk to him about everything. Well, I see what you're saying. I'm sorry, because you're going to release the witness, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, I'll talk to him.
Agent Johnson, If you are present, can you please unmute and raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you, Agent Johnson. Agent Johnson, can you just briefly describe what your role is in terms of probation and supervision?
Yeah, I am the lead probation officer at 14B District Court, supervising all the assaultive and domestic cases here at 14B. Been doing that for the past 25 years.
Thank you, Agent Johnson. I wanted to ask more specifically about what sorts of contact you have, and we'll be specific to this case with Mr. Ntwala. When a defendant has a electronic monitoring device, in this case a Scram Tether, what direct communication do you have with them regarding those devices?
As far as like with the community corrections agents, or just with the defendants, or both?
I'm sorry, I should have specified them. Both. So let me ask first, what sort of communication do you have, if any, with the community correction staff? And then we'll go to the defendant.
So basically, I type up the orders and send it to the community corrections email, and then it gets assigned to an agent. And then we just communicate back and forth as to whether or not it's been installed. And then I get the progress reports as to their compliance. In regards to the defendants, they just let me know that, when can they get it off.
Okay. So with respect to this case, do you recall or have any records of any communication? We have the report, so I'm not asking specifically about the report itself, the violation report, but do you recall any other communication with Agent Casey regarding this case?
I do. He did email me, call me if I had any communication with Mr. Nutella. If I've heard from him, didn't hear from him. I know that he was also on probation with 14A. I did reach out to them to see if they had any communication. They did not. And he just never reached out to me.
Okay. And so in terms of Mr. Ntwala, just overall, does that mean also you had no contact with him directly since his sentencing date, essentially? Is that?
That is correct.
Okay. Do you have a record of any attempts to call him, phone, email, any sorts of?
I did attempt to call him to reach out, and I got no response from the phone calls.
Okay. And then I'll ask, of course, this answer probably no, but do you have any records of any incoming contacts or attempts to contact, whether they came into probation generally or directly to you from Mr. Ntwala after he was sentenced?
I don't have any information in regards to that, no.
Okay. And just to be clear, as far as you know, Agent Johnson, is it correct that Mr. Ntwala has been in custody as of December 29th of 2023?
I do believe so, but I can verify that information.
Okay.
I'm showing December 29th,
Okay.
2023.
And so I just want to be clear, when you had that communication with Agent Casey regarding his failure to report for the downloads and we're attempting to reach him, that was prior to him being in custody, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I don't believe I have any further questions for Agent Johnson.
Thank you, Ms. White.
Ms. Agent Johnson, you said that you had no communication with Mr. Ntwala.
Correct.
Does your department have a secretary or assistant? I don't know what
Yes.
the name is. Do they keep track of all income? Coordinator, thank you. Do they keep track of all incoming calls?
They usually forward them to us so that we know who's called, but she doesn't keep track of everyone. It doesn't get logged or anything.
Does she sometimes have communications with the clients when they call in? For instance,
Repeat that.
The question is whether he downloaded his tether or not.
okay. let me phrase this correctly. If she had called him regarding his tether, would she have directed that call to you, or would she have answered the call? Possibly have answered that phone call.
If he would have called in regards to his tether download, she would have told him to contact community corrections, and she would not have mentioned anything to me. She would have directed him to go call community corrections.
Okay. Does she sometimes, well, you probably don't know this, I'm sorry. I'm asking questions about somebody else. So you don't recall any communications with Mr. Ntwala?
Asked and answered, move on.
Okay. And I don't recall this. Did Ms. McDuffie ask you about any emails from Mr. Ntwala?
I don't have any emails
Did she
from
ask?
Natwala.
Thank you. Thank you. Did Mr. Ntwala ever go to mental health services? As far as you know, and I'm going to connect that question. I'm sorry?
I have no verification if he did or did not.
Okay, I was going to connect that question, but since you don't know, I can't. Okay. I have no further questions for Agent Johnson.
Thank you. Any further witnesses?
None from the people, Your Honor.
Ms. White?
Mr. Ntwala, did you wish to testify?
You have to get them to unmute you again, sir.
I probably should talk to him separately, if you don't mind, Your Honor.
I do.
Okay,
You should have done that when I put you in there before.
I should have, and we did talk this morning for quite at length, so.
Yes, I would love to testify.
Please raise your right hand and be sworn. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I swear, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may proceed, Ms. White.
Mr. Ntwala, did you contact Community Corrections?
Yes, I did.
Did you go?
Correction, yes, I did via email.
Okay, and what was it that you said in that email to Community Corrections?
I was concerned about the alcohol monitor that was installed on my ankle after my release. That was my very first time to have a download, and I didn't know how often I could get a download, because when I was released, I went there in person at the community correction office. I signed in on the sheets that they have daily. I talked to the agent Brandon Casey in person, and also I asked him about the vibration of the monitor. I thought I was going to charge it daily, but he said, "Do not worry about the vibration." And also, I asked him in person about how often I could get it downloaded. He said that it would be a while until from the very first day that I got out of jail. So he was going to contact me via phone, but I lost my phone.
And so you sent an email?
Yes, I sent an email. I went there in person, then I sent him an email. I still have records of the email that I sent to him on my Gmail account.
Okay. Did you also contact probation?
Over the phone, yes. And the representative at the probation, 14B probation, referred me to Ypsilanti mental health court with for a screening, and I went there in person the next day. I was screened, and I was subject to go back for a next appointment there, but unfortunately, I ended up being incarcerated.
When you contacted probation, did they tell you to go to Community Corrections?
That's correct. And
Did they-
to go to mental health in Ypsilanti.
Did they tell you to go to Community Corrections?
No, just the mental health court, Ypsilanti. CMH Ypsilanti.
Did they say anything to you about the downloads?
Not at all.
Okay, I believe that's all my questions.
Any
No
questions from
further questions.
any questions from you, Ms. McDuffie?
Just one, Mr. Ntwala, when you spoke to somebody from 14B probation that told you to go to mental health,
Yes.
who'd you talk to?
I can't recall the name, but I have made a call. And also, when I talked to that representative at the 14B probation, that's when I do believe that I was told by the representative that the agent at the community correction sent them an email that I think contacted them too, but I told them that I was waiting on their response because I contact community correction via email.
Just to the best that you can remember, when you talked to that person at 14B probation, do you remember if it was a lady's voice or a man's voice?
It was a woman. It was a woman voice.
Okay, I don't have any further questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
No questions based on that.
Thank you. Anything further from anybody else? Any other additional witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Brief argument, very, very brief.
Yes, Your Honor. My argument is that I don't understand why we're having this hearing. It's a very simple question as to whether or not Mr. Ntwala reported for a download. And what he has, we heard from Agent Casey, who explained the process. He said he verbally told him, spoke to Agent Johnson about the fact that he didn't have any contact with him. My biggest concern here is not only Mr. Ntwala being honest with the court, but honest with himself. And he just testified here today that he called Agent Casey, or rather that he went directly to get his tether, and he was given a vague answer as to Agent Casey saying it'll be a while and to contact him about when he's supposed to report. That really doesn't make any sense, that you would be fitted with a Scram Tether and not be told, don't worry about it, I'll let you know when you have to come back. But furthermore, he then states that after that point, he lost his phone and he sent Agent Casey an email because he didn't have a phone. He also just testified that he had a phone when he called 14B probation because he remembers speaking to a woman over the phone. So it's really not clear to the people why Mr. Ntwala was not able to use his phone and contact community corrections during this entire time. And we're talking about a 2-month period between his incarceration and when he had this tether on, and why there's no phone, or why the phone reappears and he's able to have phone conversations with this court saying that he was misdirected essentially to mental health services when he specifically called about that tether. So I have some concerns about his honesty generally, and this hearing is unfortunate, but I believe that it's been shown by the standard of evidence that were required to show that Mr. Ntwala indeed failed to report for his tether downloads as ordered.
Ms. White?
Mr. Ntwala did attempt to do the downloads. As soon as he was released from jail, he followed orders and went to community corrections. He did speak with Agent Casey. In his mind, he thought he had to do the download right then. He was told it was too soon and to come back. His understanding was to come back later and that he would then do the download, because he did follow up by email to ask about those downloads. He said he did not get a response. After not getting a response, he contacted 14B. Instead of being told about the downloads, he asked what specifically he needed to do, and he was told to go do the mental health appointment. He was not told anything. Mr. Ntwala states he was not told anything about the downloads, the tether, or anything else he was supposed to do, just to go to the mental health appointment, which he did. So I believe that Mr. Ntwala states that because of those things, and he did reach out twice, he was not told any other additional things to do, that he did do everything he was supposed to do. That he thought he was supposed to do. Sorry, let me rephrase that.
Everything that Mr. Ntwala said about this hearing today is pretty much incredulous. And for all the reasons stated by the prosecutor, he is guilty of this violation. And what do you want to do about, I believe, this point in time, we still need to have the sentencing. Well, we already had the sentencing. So we need to have a sentencing on the violation. And I will bring him back for that.
And Your Honor, it looks like he's going to be in at least until July 5th, on his 14A1 case.
Now, Crash, I'm actually attending Dawn Farm program. If I do complete that program, then Judge Simpson has said that it will consider early release soon as I complete the Dawn Farm program.
Interesting for you and Judge Simpson. All right, I'm gonna bring you back for sentencing in this particular case. On March 21st, 2024 at 10 o'clock a.m.
I'm sorry, what was that date one more time?
March 21st.
Thank you.
All right, I'm letting in our people from our final settlement conference docket right now. Bond is continued.